All right, I want you to picture the scene in vivid 4K heritage cinematic style. Just really visualize this. We're looking at Jacob, the ancient patriarch, sitting in the absolute dimmest sorrow. His breath is faint, his eyes are totally distant. He's been in this prolonged, agonizing state of grief, severed from his beloved son Joseph, and the atmosphere in the room is just heavy, completely drained of color and life. But suddenly, a very subtle spark ignites within him. The ancient texts tell us, and the spirit of Jacob their father revived. His spirit flickers back to life, catching fire from the inside out, and then a second, infinitely greater light descends from above, transforming him completely. He's no longer just Jacob the grieving father, he awakens as Israel. Radiant, his voice incredibly strong, and the entire room just instantly fills with a renewed, surging vitality.
Welcome to This Explainer. Today, we are completely decoding the profound Kabbalistic mechanics of spiritual awakening. We're pulling straight from heavy-hitting masterworks like the Zohar, the Book of the Tree of Life, and the Pardes Remonim, and we're transforming these ancient, highly technical texts into a direct, actionable blueprint for expanded consciousness. We're going to deep dive into what Kabbalists call the Sod, the deep, secret inner workings of how a human soul transitions from a state of depleted, bare-minimum survival into a fully realized, radiant operating system. It's a two-stage awakening, and it's absolutely fascinating.
So, where does our story begin? It starts with Jacob in a state of total, utter depletion. In Lurianic Kabbalah, this baseline state of diminished consciousness is called Mochin de Katnut. Literally translated, that means the brains of smallness. According to the Book of the Tree of Life, when a system, or a person, experiences profound loss or spiritual exile, almost all of its high-level light departs. What's left is just this tiny, microscopic residue of vitality. It's barely enough to keep the entity alive. Think of it like the basic hardware of a computer system that's just barely running on low power mode, or maybe a tiny pilot light that's just fighting to keep the furnace from freezing over. It's a state of deep sorrow and absolute minimal spiritual health.
Now, the Hebrew wordplay here, derived straight from the Book of the Tree of Knowledge, is just absolutely brilliant. These aren't just random names. They are literal structural diagrams of the soul. The name Jacob, or Yaakov, shares its root with the word ekev, which means the heel. It perfectly represents the lowest physical hardware, that base level of existence that's right down there touching the dust. But the name Israel, or Yisrael, if you rearrange those letters, it spells Li Rosh, meaning I have a head. And this perfectly maps out our journey today. Jacob represents that localized, diminished self down at the heel, while Israel represents the highest operating intellect, the cosmic head, finally coming fully online.
To make this incredibly concrete, let's look at this through a multi-generational lens. If we translate this into video game terms, Jacob, stuck in this state of Mochin de Katnut, is basically your character completely stripped down to a single blinking health bar, right? You've got extremely low HP, you've lost all your advanced armor, every single one of your special abilities is locked out, and your field of vision is totally restricted. You have exactly enough vitality to survive the level, but you are miles away from unlocking your full power mode. You're technically functioning, but let's be honest, you are not truly playing the game.
So, how exactly do we escape this diminished state? Well, the Zohar outlines a highly specific, two-stage system boot sequence. Step 1 is Itaruta delatata, the awakening from below. Jacob's own diminished, exhausted spirit must first revive itself and reach upward. Then comes Step 2, Itaruta delela, the awakening from above. Once that lower spirit reaches up, the Zohar tells us that spirit cleaves to spirit, and a massive influx of higher consciousness just pours down. It's a precise Sephirotic boot sequence. The initial spark must first ignite at the lowest hardware level, basically pinging the server, before it triggers the massive download of the higher operating system into the body.
And what's wild is how Kabbalists mapped these exact spiritual states to specific visual frequencies, as detailed in the Pardes Remonim and the Zohar corrections. When Jacob is stuck in his diminished state, the aura is entirely dominated by dim reds and heavy, muddy earth tones. This represents strict judgment, heavy constraint, and super low vitality. But as that system boots up and the higher spirit descends, the internal frequency just breaks wide open. That restrictive red gets flooded with a blinding white light, representing pure mercy and massive illumination. And finally, they mix together to create this radiant, vibrating green, the color of Tiferet. That represents perfect harmony, full life, and absolutely boundless vitality. The hardware literally changes color as the new software installs.
When we map these ancient mechanics to our modern understanding, the alignment is just staggering. In Lurianic Kabalah, you start at Mochin de Katnut. In cosmic engineering terms, this is your basic hardware boot, the BIOS level.
In a video game, it's having minimal health. Then, the awakening from below, Iteruta Delatata, is the system bus pinging the higher network, or that leveling up sequence where you punch in the cheat code. Finally, you reach Mochin de Godlet, the brains of greatness. The full OS network is totally online. All system services are active. In gaming terms, God mode is fully unlocked. These ancient texts aren't just beautiful poetry. They are precise schematics detailing exactly how base processes have to power on and ping the higher Sephirotic network to download full system services.
Now, this internal shift mirrors the exhaustive mechanics of the Sephiroth, the divine attributes themselves. Jacob represents Tiferet, which is essentially the central processor. But in a diminished state, Tiferet is restricted. It's pulled downward and connected only to Malchut, which is the absolute base level of physical action. But as the higher identity of Israel loads into a system, Tiferet elevates. It stretches all the way upward to connect directly with Binah, the cosmic mother, the ultimate source of higher wisdom and radically expanded intellect. He is literally plugging his central processor straight into the cosmic mainframe.
And that brings us to the sheer scale of this upgrade, symbolized by the number 10. See, when Jacob is stuck in Katnut, he's operating in a highly fragmented state of only 6 dimensions. Kabbalists call this the Vav Kratzavat, the 6 spatial directions. He's entirely bound by basic, ground-level physical reality. But the awakening of Israel, that represents the monumental shift from those limited 6 dimensions into a perfectly unified, fully integrated 10-dimensional structure. The lower 6 dimensions seamlessly merge with the upper 3 intellects and the final grounded reality, bringing the entire, complete 10 Sephiroth activation fully online.
And here is the absolute climax of the awakening. We've reached Mochin de Godlet, expanded consciousness. The room just floods with this tremendous, surging vitality as the full OS installs, completely transforming the dim hardware of Jacob, the heel, into the brilliant, fully awakened system of Israel, the head. It is this intensely triumphant state where all those old limitations of sorrow, physical distance, and low vitality are completely shattered by direct, uninterrupted connection to the infinite source. The individual doesn't disappear. Actually, it's the exact opposite. Their hardware is finally fully capable of running the ultimate software it was always designed for.
Which leaves us with a vital question for you to take into your week. What does your personal boot sequence to expand your dimensions actually look like today? How are you initiating that crucial awakening from below to trigger your own download from above? Thank you for joining us for this complete journey through the Pardes. We hope these ancient truths help you and your family improve your own dimensions this week. If you enjoyed this full chapter deep dive, please like, subscribe, and share which part of the journey touched your soul in the comments. We'll see you in the next chapter.